What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another edition of the Jace for Days podcast. I'm Josh. He's Josh. We got Jace Jumpers, Jaron Jackson Jr.'s, John Morant's, Joe Johnson's, Ja Raffs, of course. We've got Jace. We got him for days. Josh, how you doing?
Nothing like some technical difficulties to start your Monday morning.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything I'd like to have more than 7:15 a.m. technical difficulties. Sounds fantastic. Other than that,
We're
I'm fine. How are you?
we're persevering.
We're persevering. Well, here we are doing this podcast, even though we said, even though we said if San Diego State and Miami won on
Yeah,
Sunday, that was it, that we just
yeah.
weren't coming back.
There,
We
there was a there was a
guess
moment when I realized Texas was going to lose. That thought crossed my mind. I don't know if I can do this anymore.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know if we're gonna have it. I just don't know. I just don't know. Wow, that was my chair arm. Sorry, that was not a like a
A little
like
aggressive
a
there.
that wasn't a gun firing or anything. That was just my chair arm locking into place. So there we go. Now you're up on a Monday morning as well. Um, and we've got two basketball games to start to talk about, and we have a Final Four that is that we have four teams headed to Houston. We'll start We'll just go in chronological order. That seems logical. Starting with the South Region championship game, I guess final. That's
Final.
usually what they call it. The South Region final between San Diego State, the 5 seed, and Creighton, the 6 seed. 57-56, the final score here. Clearly offense at a premium. Blue Jays 22 of 55 from the field, 2 of 17 from the 3-point line. Are the San Diego State Aztec were really not that much better, and really it's one of those box scores that you look and it's like, okay, so which one of these teams won this game? And that's kind of where you're at when you get a 1 point game, and neither team got to 60.
And they combined to make 5 3-pointers.
That too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for the advantage here, if you're San Diego State, they did take 3 fewer threes and made one more. They shot twice as well from three, which isn't saying much because they were 3 of 13, but they did shoot twice as well from three as Creighton did. So I guess that's it. They ended with the same amount of rebounds, and you also had an advantage in offensive rebounds. So that's something. Jaden Ledee in particular was really good. He had three offensive rebounds off the bench.
But
But it was
then Creighton also made 6 more shots from the foul line.
Yes, you also had that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's the 3 extra field goals and the 1 extra 3-pointer that get you. So that would get you what? 3, 6, 7. 3, 6, 7. Yeah. There you go.
And I mean, this just felt like a game Creighton should win. Just because of what they can do offensively. And again, credit to San Diego State defense. They have the ability to just completely disorient teams in a way very few teams in the country do. And so Creighton wins on another day where you're not 2 of 17 from three, but they were 2 of 17 from three. And the fact that they're not as reliant on it allowed them to stay in the game and have an opportunity. And the fact that they're this good defensively allowed them to hold San Diego State 57 points. But at the end of the day, it comes down to one possession in that situation, and that was a foul. You can't just allow people to do whatever they want to. Now, if you want to argue that wasn't a foul, I'm happy to have that conversation. What I'm not interested in having is the you can't call that foul there conversation. You can't just let people do whatever they want because it's the last possession of the game.
I
The
hate
rules
that
don't.
conversation.
Yeah, the rules don't go away. Now, was that the most obvious egregious foul ever? No. There's an argument that, but he still. I mean, Ryan Nembhard put his his hand on his hip.
Mhm.
Last time I checked, you can't touch people while they're trying to shoot.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of stuff a game like this comes down to between two really good teams in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, the whole they're two like first of all, people get mad that the refs are so bad, and then when the refs make the right call, they get mad. So like
It's a great point.
refereeing is an impossible
Yes.
job.
Oh, yeah.
Impossible.
And nobody ever comes away going, that was a really well refereed
Yeah.
game. Look at that performance.
Like it's either like what you want is for nobody to talk about the refs.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's never, you know what? That was a really tough physical game and it was refereed appropriately.
Yeah.
It's either like first of all that, and then second of all, like this idea that if you made a wrong call, you have to make up for it with another wrong call on the other end to balance it out, or the idea that because like like sure, maybe you don't, maybe you hold the whistle there, but the idea that you're not allowed to make the calls according to the rules that you've been given because it's late in the game is like, because that is a slippery slope,
Right.
because it's the fouls that are like truly like you're getting borderline molested that become an issue if you create this preconceived notion that I can do whatever I want in the last 15 seconds of the game because they're not going to call a foul. That's so silly. That's so boring. I mean, that's so lazy. Like come up with something. Like, can we talk about that? Like Baylor Shireman was 3 of 10 from the field. That Trey Alexander and Ryan Nemhard were 7 of 19 from the field. That Creighton got 0 points in one shot total from their bench. Like, can we talk about those things before you're lazy and just talk about the fact that there was a quote unquote bad call at the end of this game? Like,
And about, yeah. And the fact that Creighton had this game under control
right.
and couldn't, when San Diego State got going in the second half, they just couldn't stop the snowball that was coming. And yes, obviously came down to the final possession, but it didn't look like that was going to happen for most of this game. And then, yeah, defensively, they just couldn't string stops together to kind of quell the momentum and keep San Diego State at arm's length. And so all of a sudden, you get two teams that clearly, based on what's happened the last two seasons, are evenly matched because they you just can't decide anything between them until the final seconds, until overtime. And somebody makes, Trammell makes a play, gets to the free throw line, knocks down a free throw. That's the difference because he beat Nemhard. Right. That's the other part of this. I'm not rewarding Ryan Nemhard for getting beat defensively.
Yeah.
Trammell there's a reason he fouled him because Trammell got him on his back and on his hip.
Right.
That's called right. Let's talk about the fact you need to play better defense than the fact that the refs did their job.
Impossible job. Not enough money on the planet for me to do that job.
That's kind of like That's kind of like teachers, right? Low key, they just need to be paid way, way better than they are for everything they deal with.
I read a story not long ago that predicted and laid out why teachers are going to be the next, like, it's going to be the next profession, or like, I don't know if it was like next, like there won't be another one before teachers, but that at some point teachers will make like crazy amounts of money. Interesting. Probably not going to happen, but interesting. I would only be a referee if and like there are incredibly rewarding things that come with being a teacher, right? Like,
sure,
like there's absolutely nothing rewarding that comes from being a referee. Zero. I mean, like
you get cool experiences.
I mean, I guess yeah, but like that's different.
Sure. I was just coming up with something.
Yeah, right. I mean, if like that's the top of the top, if that's the Mount Rushmore of rewarding things that come from being a referee, I would like to ask a referee that question.
No, knowing the other one I can think of is knowing that you're the reason this can happen. Right?
Okay.
That if you don't have people willing to referee, you don't have a game.
Sure. I'll entertain that one.
I'm just coming up with stuff.
Yeah, I would love to know like what the feeling what the feeling is. Like, are they proud of a well called game? Like, does that linger with them? Like, does it linger when they have a bad called game? Like, I would be curious. I would only do it if I could ref in it like a Batman mask so nobody knows who I am. And if I could be just referred to as referee and then the number that's on the back of my referee jersey. That's the
Mhm.
only way I'm doing it. And then like seven figures. Then I'll talk. Then we'll talk.
I guess the good thing is that nobody really recognizes referees.
At least for the most part.
Yeah. So that
They're just universally yelled at.
right. When you're off the court, right? That it doesn't,
Sure.
as angry as people may be, and I'm sure there's nasty things said on social media, unfortunately, but you do kind of get to escape back into your normal life without, right? LeBron or Caitlin Clark or whoever can't just be a normal person.
You don't think Caitlin Clark can be a normal person? I think everywhere except Iowa City, Caitlin Clark is a normal person.
Maybe that's fair. That's fair. I've just at this moment in time, I
Sure.
was just thinking of kind of national sports celebrities and 40-point triple doubles in the Elite Eight. We'll do that for you.
It was coming at some point, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as they got far enough, they didn't stumble early for some, unforeseen reason. It was going to
Yeah.
come at some point. There was
I
going
was
to be
just
something stupid.
yeah, I was just going for names that came to top of mind.
Yeah.
Right. The athlete is different than the ref in that regard. So that's
I apologize for taking that thumbtack and bursting your bubble there. My bad.
all good. The other thing I want to say here, heading into the Final Four, Matt Bradley's going to start putting up points at some point.
Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about.
He was 1 of 8 in this game, and obviously, they're built differently. Where they're not designed for him to be the player he was at Cal.
They're certainly not designed for him to be 1 of 8 from the field, though.
Yeah. There's always the opportunity that, and Tramel's been pretty good this tournament. Butler was 8 of 11 from the field for 18 points. That was big. But Matt Bradley is the guy that can go score 25. Right. They're not built. They're not asking him to do that every game. He's sacrificing some of his offensive firepower to make this work and for them to be at their best. But it's coming. And
I also refuse to believe that their best includes him 6 of 27 for 3 games. Over 3 games. I refuse to believe that.
Right. I'm talking more from a shot volume standpoint, from a usage rate.
Sure.
That he's not the offense is not designed for him to score 20 a game. No. It's much more balanced than that. But right, at some point, they need him to be better. I believe he's going to be better. So if you're looking for optimism heading into a Final Four game, it's that at some point he's going to start making shots. And then maybe you get a little bit better offensively because their defense allows them to do this, but they've kind of just won based off of, right, making games ugly, just really kind of messing everything up for the other team and grinding their way through.
They have gotten to 70 twice. In general rule of thumb in college basketball, if you can get to 70 on most nights, if your defense is good, you're probably going to win that game.
Yeah, I guess this game in particular kind of.
And the Charleston game wasn't pretty either.
Yeah, right. And they're certainly capable of it, which is why. And I was thinking more, yeah, okay, so they scored 70 again. They were pretty good offensively against Alabama. Yeah.
He was 7 of 15 in the Charleston game. They only scored 63 points.
Yeah. So right, there's that part of it too, that he can kind of be that guy to go get you 20 in a game where you're not playing well. And they've had other guys step up to make up for the fact that he hasn't been doing that. But at some point they need him if they're gonna keep going.
I mean, in theory, they're about to go play the by definition the lowest quality team they've played in the tournament. That's I guess other than Charleston.
Right.
But certainly since the round of 64. So maybe we'll see. And they'll play a Miami team that they might be the only team in the country that they can shut down.
Yeah, that would be a fascinating matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man. 57-56. The San Diego State Aztec. Here we go. We went from a Mountain West team like never winning a first round game to a Mountain West team going all the way to the Final Four. How about that?
And they've been, I mean, they have been kind of knocking on the door, right? If it was going to be somebody, it was going to be San Diego State. Sweet 16s, they didn't have, and I think we were talking about this off air. They didn't even get the opportunity with their best team. That
Right.
Malachi Flynn team
COVID
didn't get
year.
to play in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
That this is eventually they were going to make a deep run because they're built for this tournament, because they're excellent every single season, win 20, 25, 30 games, can play with anybody in the country. It's just you need to have things go your way. You need to catch some breaks. You need to play at your best in the tournament. They got looking back on it, a good matchup with that 1 seed, I believe, because of the way that they can just take you out of your element with what they can do defensively. And you're right, you make the play you need to get past the Elite Eight, and here they are.
In a season that they basically whiffed on all of their chances to get good wins too. They lost that game against Nevada on January 31st, and I believe even you came in here as you might have thrown them in there, or was it? I feel like they came up in conversation around that time because they had lost two of their, 2 games in 6 because they had also lost to New Mexico, and then they lost to Nevada, and there was a conversation about like the margin for error is not very big right now because they don't have any great wins. Like up until that point, they had lost to Arizona and Arkansas as well as St. Mary's, all close games, but none of them they were actually able to get. And they've only lost once since then. They lost to Boise State on the road, and other than that, they've taken care of business up until the Final Four.
I know I had New Mexico as a loser in that for that reason.
Was it New Mexico?
I know I had New Mexico at one point.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
That might have been what it was. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair. Anything else on this game?
I would have loved to see Creighton and UConn play each other in the national championship game. And if I'm UConn, I am thrilled that San Diego State won that game just because I don't want to. They haven't lost it. I mean, Danny Hurley's been talking about this. They feel great having to not play Big East teams. It's not that that San Diego State is way less scary than Creighton or anything. Clearly, I mean, they just played to a draw essentially. I just don't want a Big East team if I'm UConn. So I'm thrilled that my path, no matter what now, involves all non-con opponents.
Not to mention that it features San Diego State and Florida Atlantic. No, it's not just non. It's not just non.
5 seed and a 9 seed. Yeah.
Right. Right. Somehow we're the 4 seed and the best seed in this tournament left. How about that?
Yeah.
On the other side of the bracket last night, Josh in a corner crying tears because Texas falls to Miami 88-81. Miami, I mean, Texas decided that defense was optional in this game. I mean, that's basically what we got down to. 59% from the field, 29 to 49 from the field. They were like, we don't need to shoot 3-pointers. It's fine. We're 2 of 8 from the field. We got to the free throw line 32 times. That's 28 of 32, 87% from the field. I mean, Texas was just fine offensively. 50% from the field, 30 of 60, 10 of 25 from the 3-point line. Got to the free throw line 15 times and made 11 of them. But Josh, at multiple points this season, we said, we want to see Texas. I mean, there were multiple times that when Texas came up in conversation, we were having the talk about, can Texas just lock it in defensively, and can they kind of, because there are nights where and those big physical guards and all of the arms and legs and length and athleticism that they have all over the floor, when they lock in defensively, they're the most excuse me, the most balanced team in the country, and that's one of the reasons why you had them cutting down the nets, right? Not just the Final Four, right?
Oh yeah.
And on this particular night, right, Miami has shown that they are clearly one of the best offenses in the country this year, and just have guys on every single night. I mean, that backcourt that backcourt, and it was led by Jordan Miller. It wasn't
Who
even
didn't
Nigel Pack
miss.
and Isaiah Wong, right? It was Jordan Miller, 7 of 7 from the field and 13 of 13 from the free throw line. Nigel Pack and Isaiah Wong added 15 and 14 of their own. If you're counting at home, that is 46 points combined. And so listen, it's not just the Texas defense here. Of course, Miami has shown that, hey, we can score on anybody, and certainly we can score on anybody left in this tournament. I suppose San Diego State's the team that has the best opportunity to shut them down. If anybody does,
Maybe
it's
UConn with the way they're playing
UConn.
defense right now.
But they certainly don't have that much better of a chance to stop them than Texas did, and Texas did no such thing.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to be too hard on Texas's defense. Clearly, I mean, you gave up.
I'm going to be hard on Texas's defense. Don't give up 51 in the second half of an Elite Eight game.
Yeah, I mean, you gave up 88. It could be better, but they did essentially take away the 3-point line.
They forgot all of the other square feet of the court. Yeah. Like literally all of it.
It wasn't like this was a bunch of layups, though. I mean, how many of those, and certainly there were some, but how many of those, if you're Rodney Terry, are you going back saying, I'm not okay with the end result of that possession before you actually see the ball go into the basket or bounce off of the basket?
I don't know.
It was a combination of everything, right? Some defensive lapses and Miami's spectacular offense. I'm to the point where I'm kind of just giving the credit to Miami's offense more than anything else.
And like also you can't get outscored by 13 with 13 minutes left. You're up 64-31 with 13:30 left in this game. Like we can defend Texas's defense all we want to. You lost to a worse Miami team and you're up by 13 with 13 minutes left. And the game wasn't even close at the end.
Yeah, to me, and I know a lot of this has to do with Miami's 51 points in the second half, but to me, the most frustrating part is the way that their offense just disappeared down the stretch. Yeah, that with all of those offensive weapons, they just couldn't do anything to keep themselves in the game, prevent this from getting to the point where Miami's just getting a free throw line parade at the end because, right, you're fouling because it's kind of close, but also you're not really in the, you're hoping for a miracle, and Miami just made their free throws and didn't provide it. And, Dylan Mitchell, 4 points, Bishop, 7, Hunter, 9. Brock Cunningham was good. Morris hit a couple threes. But outside of, you had Timmy Allen, Marcus Carr, and Serge Barry Rice giving you 15, 16, and 17, not in that order. And outside of that, you just didn't really get enough from anybody else to overcome what Miami was providing offensively. And there's also the part of this that Dylan Disu is their most important defensive player, probably, and he didn't play.
Not their most important guard defensive player, though. He's not guarding any of those guards.
Right. From an interior standpoint, if you're taking away the 3-point line, right, that
sure
the rim protector becomes important to kind of impact those shots. Does that make the difference? The way he was playing, I can certainly make the argument. Also, they were doing just fine without him, and then it fell apart. So you can't kind of have it both ways and say, look how good they were in the first half, and then, you just got to give Miami credit. There are times watching them, I just wonder how they lose so many times during the regular season.
I think you're not giving Miami enough credit. They lost 6 times in the regular season.
In a down ACC, yeah,
and shared the
regular season
ACC. What else do you want from them?
They just look like they should, be going 31-3 or something. They're so good offensively, and those guards are so difficult to deal with. And Isaiah Wong did not have a good first half at all, and then he came out in the second half and he kind of took over and said, "I'll get us the points we need to." And
Well, the answer to your question is that they're the 104th ranked
Yeah,
defense at KenPom. Like,
there.
that's the
Yes.
answer to your question. They gave up 88 to Maryland, a Maryland team that couldn't hit the broadside of the barn in this tournament, scored 88 and won by 18 against them. They gave up 76 to a sub 150 KenPom Georgia Tech team. They lost 83-81 to NC State. Like, the short answer is when they don't make everything
Right.
offensively, they're put at risk.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of like, Louisville ended up 290th at KenPom. They put 83 points on the board against this team.
Oh yeah, they're not very good defensively. Yeah.
So there's they do a lot of winning by 10 and scoring 86.
Right.
Like that, 88
Yep.
72, 80 73, 91 76, 83 93 85. That was the Louisville score. They beat Wake Forest 96 to 87. So that's ultimately your answer right there.
And sure, right. And over, 30 plus games, that's going to kind of even itself out a little bit more. They just have this thing where, and it was last year's group, and then you add Nigel Pack and Norchad Amir, who was also really good in this game.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the differences from last season. You have a legitimate interior presence instead of stretch 5, who isn't that big. They are better, but they just have the ability, for whatever reason, that they're playing. They don't have those kind of games in the NCAA tournament. Whether that's just coincidence, whether that's something Jim Larrañaga is doing, right? Last season, this season, they generally, they had the stinker of a game against Iowa State that was just awful to watch that they won last year. But generally,
are you remembering that one correctly? 70-56? Is that what you're remembering? They lost 76-50 to Kansas.
Oh no, I was thinking of Iowa State's first round game. Sorry.
Okay, gotcha.
My bad. I don't even remember who they played in the first round. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they don't have those stinkers in the NCAA tournament, and so you got to score.
Iowa State beat LSU.
That's what it was.
59-54, but then they beat Wisconsin 54-49. So
I was thinking of the LSU game, but yeah,
gotcha. You could pick either one of those games.
Yeah. They just score 80 every single NCAA tournament game, it seems like, or 70 against a team that isn't very good offensively, and it's just they're one of those teams that, is this a sustainable method to win a national championship? I mean, they're getting close. I would still argue the answer is no, because they're nowhere near good enough defensively. But on the right night, if you play well for 4 games offensively, they're as dangerous as any team in the country, because, like I talked about last game, they're just better than you are offensively versus defensively. And it doesn't matter how good you are defensively if they're better than you offensively. The good offense is going to win because they make tough shots. They don't need the 3-point line. They just generate offense. And there are very few teams that have that kind of ability. So then the question becomes, right, if you get UConn and then San Diego State, can one of them actually win this tug of war and actually dictate the terms of the game with their defense? Because until you do that, this Miami team is going to be incredibly difficult to deal with, unless they just have a bad offensive game, and then they're in trouble, because particularly UConn's going to score some points too.
I mean, they've already beaten the 5th ranked defense at KenPom, the 13th ranked defense at KenPom, and then where is Indiana? They can't be that far down there. And then I get there further than I thought. The 45th ranked defense at KenPom, but I would argue that Indiana is a better defense than that. Maybe not at the guard position though. But yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things. They probably have their toughest test probably comes against UConn in the Final Four. Like if they win that one, right? I bet that will be talked about as the de facto national championship leading up to the Final Four. Maybe some implications there, if nothing else. But I mean, they escaped Drake in the first round, 63-56, and then 85 against Indiana, 89 against Houston, and 88 against Texas. It's not bad. It's not bad from the U. Where, we talked about Muss earlier in this tournament. Where's Jim Larinaga in the I know how to coach in the NCAA tournament
Oh,
rankings
he
for
way
you?
up there.
He's got to
Way
be
up
up there,
there.
right?
He's got Final Fours, 17, I think exactly 17 years apart,
Yep, that's correct.
plus another Elite Eight at programs who had never been there before.
And
right?
has won multiple games in the tournament 3 straight years now.
Yeah,
since
they lost
Miami went back.
they lost to that Loyola team in the first round. I had forgotten about that.
Which year?
When Loyola made the Final Four.
That would have been 21, right?
20. No.
Since the pandemic, Miami has missed the tournament and lost to Kansas in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, it was before the pandemic.
What year was that? 2018? Yeah, that's what it was. 2018.
Yeah. I believe that was the year they lost to Loyola in the first round.
It is. That's what I'm telling you. I'm looking. 64, 62.
Yeah, and it was who was it? I forget who hit the shot.
Lonnie Walker team.
Yeah, somebody hit a buzzer beater for Loyola.
My guess was that it would be Clayton Custer.
I think it might have been. I don't remember who it was. But my point just being, I was trying to remember, oh, right, they actually did lose in the first round one year. Because, yeah.
Like everybody at one point or another.
Right.
Except maybe Bill Self.
Yeah. And they're not, they don't walk in with 1 and 2 seeds where you put yourself in a really good position to never have that happen, right? They're 5s, they're 6s, they're 4s. And, yeah, they just find a way to win multiple games. This is a formula for NCAA tournament success. The question is it a formula that allows you to get past, again, sort of the opposite of Houston? Can you get from Sweet 16s, Elite Eights, making a Final Four to winning a national championship without having a defense?
I'm sorry, did you just imply that Sweet 16s is NCAA tournament success?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah,
right, cool.
I know.
Matt Painter, 4 out of 6. Just checking. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. That's gonna be the litmus test here. But right, from a maximizing your position with your team and how do we have NCAA tournament success, you look at what Miami does during the regular season and what Miami's done during the postseason. And also, you could talk about the fact that they also have multiple regular season ACC titles at this point. That's pretty impressive in and of itself. But nobody really expects it from him in the NCAA tournament. And he did it at George Mason. He did it last year. He's doing it again. Yeah. Oh, he's up on that list too. Mm-hmm.
He said, He said, testify. 88-81, the final score here. And so your Final Four,
as we all had,
on the right side of the bracket is the Hurricane. They're coming. A storm's a brewing. The Miami Hurricanes against we were once dubbed the best team in the country, did a full circle and got on the merry-go-round, and now we're back here as the best team left standing, the UConn Huskies and the Fighting Dan Hurleys. And then on the other side, as everyone predicted, out of the bracket that included Alabama, Creighton, Baylor. Arizona, Baylor. Who else was in there? Who was the 4 seed in
that? Virginia.
Virginia. Nobody was predicting that one though. The San Diego State Aztec. Here they are. Just adding to the list of teams that at KenPom are unbelievably unbalanced. I mean, I think Miami is 6th in offensive efficiency right now and outside the top 100 in defense. Flip that around for San Diego State. I think they're 4th at KenPom defensively and 75th in offense. So we're just busting all, like, shouts to UConn, who is now number 1 at KenPom and was on the list of teams that could do this before the tournament started. They're 1st in offensive efficiency and 11th in defensive efficiency. Sorry, I'm on the wrong year. 3rd and 11th. How about that? The 2018 Villanova Wildcats were 1st and 11th in offense and defense. And the UConn Huskies are also 1st at KenPom right now, 3rd and 11th. I almost got away with it being on the wrong KenPom page. Weirdly enough, the team closest to fitting the bill of a national champion is Florida Atlantic, who's top 29 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. But just like everyone predicted, on that side of the bracket, you'll get Florida Atlantic, versus San Diego State. You got the Fighting Dusty Mays, the Fighting Dan Hurleys, not the Bobby Hurleys, the Dan Hurleys, and the Final Four that everyone predicted in Houston in a week.
And Miami's just made the entire state of Texas its enemy.
Shoot, you're right.
By denying not one but two teams the ability to go play in the home state for the Final Four. And it just happened to be the top 2 seeds in their region.
How about that? And like Jim Nance might just like straight up insult Jim Larinaga on the broadcast, stopping his Houston boys from coming and playing in the Final Four in Houston in Jim Nance's last Final Four. Yeah. Shoot. You just might Jim Nance might just, Jim Larinaga sucks. Imagine that he just goes out with a bang. What are they gonna do? Fire him? I guess he could still be fired from CBS. He's still a pretty important. He's still a pretty important part of the CBS broadcast team, even if it's not the Final Four team. All right, fine. Maybe he'll reel it in just a little bit.
And of course,
Jim Larinaga smells. Maybe he'll say that.
Of course, you have the centrally located Final Four with 3 East Coast teams and a West Coast team.
Hey, this is why we do it in Houston.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's got an advantage. You can say that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, from a traveling party standpoint, UConn's probably the strongest.
And Houston's like the 3rd biggest city in the country?
Yeah, 3rd or 4th. Yeah.
Right. They'll fill it. It'll be all right.
Oh, yeah. Just, yeah, it did. I saw some people talking about, the value of the ticket decreased significantly.
God, I cannot come up with a thing that makes you sound like more of a loser than right after the Final Four is set. You're talking about the value of the ticket of the Final Four. Like, would you get over? Like, it's the same with the people who like make videos about here's how you can make $100 a day and you don't have to have any experience. Just go to this website. Little marketing Google AdSense, find keywords, just like honest work maybe. And how about we enjoy the Final Four where we talk about, instead of talking about the financials of it. It's so boring. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It'll be fun. It's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Loyola Chicago went, it was fun. When Georgia, like the tournaments that people remember off the top of their head, it's either oh my gosh, remember when all the 1 seeds were there in 2015? And it was, I don't know if they were actually all 1 seeds, but at least 3 of them were. And, it's Michigan State, it's Wisconsin, it's that undefeated Kentucky team, it's Duke, or it's the ones like, when George Mason goes to the Final Four, shouts to Jim Larinaga, or when Butler goes to the Final Four, like nobody remembers the years that it's just a bunch of like 1, 2, and 3 seeds. Like, I mean,
and last year had its own situation because of the names and the Duke UNC part of it.
Right.
But that was mostly about Duke playing North Carolina in the Final Four and how good that game was. Right. Yeah. And the final point I want to make here is, and this really annoys me in soccer too, because everybody talks about all the Premier League's ruining the game, all this money is ruining the game, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's taking over. NIL is ruining the game. All these, the SEC, the Big Ten are going to, and college football, it's a little bit different. But we always kind of look at this worst case scenario that all this stuff is changing and the big brands are just destroying everybody. And who showed up in the Final Four? San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, who has the most wins of any team in the country and will no matter what happens. Okay, UConn, who hasn't been a factor in the NCAA tournament in a while. Yes, recent success, massive history, big time program, back where they should be. But it's not like they were here last year or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Miami,
and then the capital of the NIL.
Right. Now a program who's never been there before. Right. A team that clearly has benefited from the financial firepower that comes with being University of Miami, Florida. My point just being there are multiple ways to have success. And there's this real lazy narrative that, the odds are stacked against you. You can't do it. Yes, you can. It's hard. That's the point. That's why you celebrate going to a Final Four. But you can do it. If San Diego State can do it, if Florida Atlantic can do it, right? If you can build a really good program, you can find players capable of, in this tournament designed for chaos, surviving, thriving, and getting to this point. And then maybe, just maybe, you show up in a weird year and the timing is right, where you look up and you go, look, if UConn loses, who knows what happens? Because they're the clear favorite, at least in my eyes. And I'm assuming you feel the same. But if they don't win that Final Four game, I mean, we're talking, not only are we talking about, Miami, San Diego State, or Florida Atlantic winning a national championship then, but also I have no clue who the favorite out of those three is, It is up for grabs if somebody can beat you. It's hard. It's supposed to be. Are you going to complain about it, or are you going to actually embrace the difficulty of it?
Tom Izzo's going to complain about it. Retire, Tom. It's time. You're complaining about made baskets after a NCAA tournament game. That's what you did. It's time to retire.
That one really rubbed you the wrong way, huh?
Yeah. But Tom Izzo's been rubbing me the wrong way for 48 months now.
It's not the exactly first time. New. Yeah. But shout out to San Diego State. Shout out to the Fighting Dusty Mays for
the Fighting Dusty Mays, baby. The Fighting Dusty Mays.
I just get so tired of just the kind of blaming the sport. The sport is fun because it's inherently unfair.
It's also like nobody's pretending that the NCAA, like the people who was like the NCAA tournament doesn't figure out who the best team is. Like nobody's pretending that it does.
Right. We just need to stop acting like it does. Right.
I also just don't understand why people refuse to just enjoy it. Like why can't it just be fun that these teams are there? And stop acting like you care if CBS's ratings are good or not. You don't actually care. You just think you're holier than thou for bringing it up.
Yeah, I've come to the point where I've heard Colin Cowherd talk about this for a long time. This idea of, and I think I've heard some other people mention it too, but that we don't actually want, parody and just kind of the same team, just kind of this blandness. What we want is Cinderellas, underdogs, compelling stories, dynasties, those kind of things, right? David versus Goliath matchups. To your point about the Final Fours, if you remember, are the ones that had the Cinderellas in them, or had a spectacular Duke North Carolina game or something like that. The sport is more compelling when you have not just a bunch of 2 and 3 seeds in there, but interesting teams for a variety of reasons. All 4 of these are interesting. You have teams you didn't really know much about that are really good basketball teams. It's not like any of these teams don't belong here. That's always my thing, is sometimes we just need to get some teams that won a game or 2 they weren't supposed to out of here. That's not the case with any of these teams. All these teams can beat any of the other teams in here. To the extent that it's possible, they're all deserving national champions. Does that mean they're the best team in the country? No. But this is going to be really fun. It's a different kind of Final Four. That's not a bad thing.
No, it's not bad. It's an interesting point, though. It's like it's the same. It has the same energy as Spotify had to make their algorithm for their shuffle actually less random because people were upset when they would get the same artist twice in a row. So if it's truly random, sometimes you will get the same artist twice in a row. But it created the illusion that it was less shuffled, less randomized. So in order to create the illusion that it's more randomized, they made their algorithm less randomized. Because if you're not going to get that artist ever after getting that artist once, then that's not truly randomized. We talk about how much we love the Cinderellas, but there's always that inkling, there's always those people who it's like, and I'm even part of I'm not gonna act like I'm not part of that, at least to a certain extent. I'm certainly not a part of it to complain about it. But I talked about on many cases that my ideal NCAA tournament is upsets in the first round, and maybe second round that don't actually impact my Elite Eight.
Right.
Like the Virginia losing to
Furman.
That is awesome because the Virginia was never going to the Elite Eight. But Furman got their win. That was awesome. The end of that game was chaotic, but ultimately it didn't impact the second weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my ideal NCAA tournament. But also it's fun to watch Florida Atlantic completely belong against every team
Right.
that they play.
That's my thing with this one is, yeah, because generally I want a deserving national champion just so that we don't have to go back and hear the narratives that are, if we could just all accept as a basketball community that this is, and I shout out to Nicole Auerbach. I saw her basically tweet what we've been trying to say every single year about it's just chaos. It's designed that way. Let's treat it that way. If we could come at it from that standpoint instead of talking about what this means for Matt Painter's legacy. Now, losing to the 16th seed is a little bit different, but and talking about another disappointing season for XYZ and the Big Ten and all that stuff, then I would feel a little bit less strongly about that. But this one, I mean, these teams deserve to be here. It just became very clear that the best team wasn't going to win this tournament except for if UConn did. And, Texas was the other team remaining that had that opportunity. But once the 1 seed started going down, you just went, okay, there is no rhyme or reason to any of this. A team's going to win. It's going to be fun. We're just going to have to accept that probably, again, UConn is the only team that can make this argument that maybe they really were the best team and they just kind of hid for us from a month there when they couldn't win against the Big East. But other than that, I just got to a point where this was going to happen. So let's have some fun with it. And it's right. These teams won some close games, Florida Atlantic first round, San Diego State escaping Creighton, but they have clearly proven they belong. And so at that point, to me, it's not any different than if this was Kansas State and Arizona, UConn and IU or something, or Houston, right? They belong just as much as those teams did. It just so happens that these lower, quote unquote, lower seeds got there instead. But I don't feel like it's any different just because they're not names you typically associate with. Right? Florida Atlantic beat Kansas State. Did they get some help with the way that bracket played out? Sure. But they also beat one of the best teams in the Big 12 with one of the best players in the country.
Right.
They all deserve to be here just like any other team pretty much that finds a way to get here deserves to be.
Amen. All righty. Are we going to podcast on Thursday? Is there a reason to podcast on Thursday?
I think we should we'll have to talk more off air, but I think we should do a Final Four preview.
Okay. Then I won't ask you for Final Four predictions. That's where I was getting.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm out of things to say. You got anything else?
No. We'll figure out time to do a Final Four preview. That'd be fun.
Agreed. So we'll do that at some point this week. We'll do a Final Four preview
before Saturday.
Josh on his A game this week. That we're gonna do. Nothing gets past you, my friend. Nothing. Not a single thing gets past you.
We're not doing the Final Four preview on Sunday.
That would be a bold strategy.
And now I'll just
to do the Final Four preview post Final Four.
And now I'll just show myself out.
And now you'll just show yourself out. And I'll say goodbye to the listeners. Thank you. Please subscribe to the Jays for Days podcast on the Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Jays for Days Pod. Check out the YouTube, the TikTok, all of those fun things. So we'll be back some point this week before Saturday, as we've established here on the end of this year podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Jays for Days podcast. I'm Josh. He's Josh. And we will see you later.